Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for today's webinar. This is Zluriverse. Zluriverse is our series on what's the latest happenings in Zluri and our latest offerings, what products, what features we're coming up with, and what's happening in the world of SaaS and applications. And today we are very excited to talk about identity governance and administration, our latest offering here from Zluri. So we're very excited to get into it and talk to you guys about how we're building an IGA solution for the present and the future. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the identity perimeter. So there used to be a network perimeter before, but today the perimeter is identity. And that perimeter is compromised today. And the reason for that is two major reasons. Because now work is decentralized and boundaryless. Anybody can work from anywhere, any device, any location. All you need is your identity, and you can log in and use your applications that you use day to day. And the second reason is obviously the acceleration of the cloud, the continued adoption of SaaS applications for everything that we do. And it's not just the adoption of SaaS, but it's also the volume of SaaS applications that people use today. So as a result, there are different ways people can access applications today because there are so many different access methodologies like MFA, through your SSO or IDP, through an OTP or passwordless, right? There's so many access methods. There are also access methods that you might not be able to monitor as well, because there are applications that are siloed and there's no visibility into those applications or who has access to them. So what's happening today is, while it's become easy to do work, it's easy to work from anywhere, it's easy to adopt these applications. And while identity is a great starting point to validate someone's authorization into an application, it's made the access ecosystem very complex. It's very difficult to understand who's having access to what type of entitlements, what type of applications, what role are they in these applications. And it's very dependent on the teams that manage these applications and the users who have access to them. So this is kind of an evolving problem because before, like we said, identity wasn't the perimeter, but now that identity is the perimeter, it's become a lot easier. But at the same time, access is a lot more complex to govern or manage. So what are the challenges that this causes today? Well, primarily, there are three challenges that happen because of this compromised perimeter and because of the complex access ecosystem we have today. The first challenge is security, right? So why is there a security challenge? What is the biggest security challenge today, and why is that happening? Well, the main reason for security challenges today is not having visibility, like we spoke about, into who has access to what, right? It's answering a simple question. For example, if you're part of this part of the sales team and you have access to Salesforce, that's normally an application that's owned by the sales team or someone who's heading the sales team. So there might be situations where you might, as a security compliance team or an IT team, you might not have access to or understanding of who is being given this access, right? So because obviously Salesforce is something that's widely used and org-wide, and it's a very critical application. So it's important that people get access to it quickly, but not having visibility to who has access to that application as an IT security owner can be a challenge or a risk, because again, for the sake of security, right? We have to ensure that the right people have the right access to these systems. So access visibility is a main reason why security is a challenge today. Next, let's move to compliance. So I'm sure everyone is well aware of the most popular compliances today, which we'll get to into a bit. But compliance is quite complex. And compliance has a lot of access controls and has a lot of policies that we have to kind of adhere to as organizations today. And the reason it's complex when it comes to access is, while even if it's just a couple of line items in your compliance certification, it's difficult to manage so many compliances and really understand, how do I automate this process of staying compliant? Because if you're not compliant, then you have a security trust deficit with the world. And that's becoming like a kind of compulsory thing to have, regardless of who you are or what company you are or where you are in the world today. Compliance is a necessity in some form or shape. And finally, The reason security and compliance is so hard to maintain across today's access ecosystem is because a lot of our reviewing and compliance work and process behind the scenes is quite manual, again, because of our lack of visibility and lack of kind of understanding of how we can get this together. And that's another challenge that's leading to audit fatigue, because you have 15, 20 application owners who you need to interact with to get things done, to get reports from them. And this becomes like a challenge in itself, because collaboration kind of can break down. So these are the three main challenges today that the enterprise is facing when it comes to governance, and also kind of why an identity governance solution is so critical today, especially when we're in a cloud ecosystem. So let's talk about a little bit more about security. Why is security so important, and why is it tied to access visibility? Well, here are some examples that we have that we already spoke about. Like, for example, who has access to NetSuite, right? Because NetSuite is a critical financial application. So it's important to know who has access to NetSuite. For example, and then who in my company has admin access to Salesforce? That's also a critical information that someone needs to know, because again, a lot of compliances need you to make sure that you know who has access to these systems and they're being audited and it's being given to the right person. Similarly, another example of why security is so important to and tied to access visibility is rogue users. You might have someone who has admin access and might go and delete things that might be important. Another example is, again, there's a role mismatch or a misconfiguration. Someone who's not supposed to have access to something that's really important has access. And finally, of course, external users, service accounts. That's also another example of an access breach, right? For example, someone who's you're working on as a consultant might be having access to your leadership Slack group for some reason. So these are kind of examples of day-to-day use cases that could occur as part of your security challenge or security breaches and security risks that today teams have to be aware of in order to stay compliant and to make sure that they're on the right track when it comes to managing their access, governance, and security policies. And then the second half of it is compliance. And like I said, there are so many compliances today. We have SOC 2 Type 2, we have ISO, which everybody has to follow today, and it's done periodically. We have industry-specific compliances for like HIPAA and healthcare and CMMC for fintech, and so many others as well. And of course, we have SOX, which is really important if you're like a large enterprise and it's like important to audit your financial system. So we are aware of these compliances. But what also is an important aspect of this is a periodic process that happens every 3 months, every 6 months, based on your internal access policies, based on what these compliances prescribe. So it's all about being able to do this periodically. And the main reason we do this is, like we said, we need to build trust with our ecosystem. And that's also a key driver for scalability, because if you have trust, then you're able to scale and have successful relationships with multiple vendors and partners and seamlessly scale as you grow as a company. So compliance will always matter, and it's here to stay, and it's a very important part of our security fabric today. So these are the kind of two specific reasons why IGA is so important today. And this is kind of a kind of preview as to what's to come when it comes to identity governance and what matters. So I'm just going to put a quick poll question up here for you guys, just to understand what you see as the priority today when it comes to IGA. So I'm going to launch the poll here now. I hope you guys can see the poll. I'll leave this up for a few seconds so everyone has a chance to answer it. Okay, great. I'm going to end the poll now. I hope everyone is able to answer it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it looks like it's kind of an even split between access visibility, compliance, and access provisioning, right? So like we said, we want to understand how IGA is important to you today, and how we can kind of help you guys get where you want to be when it comes to the security and compliance ecosystem. Right, moving on. So now that we've learned what security and compliance means in a cloud ecosystem and why it matters, we also realize because of how periodic and how real-time it has to be, it's a full-time job, and it's difficult to do that manually today. And that's why it needs a full-time solution that you can use to leverage every day. So you have one place where you can manage all your access, reviews, certifications, and governance. And that's why today we're very happy and excited to introduce modern IGA for the Identity Cloud, is Modern IGA for the Identity Cloud from Zluri. And what we're trying to solve here today is the four key use cases that we see today is a challenge in access reviews. The first one being access intelligence, like you said, getting visibility into who has access to what. And that's an important question to answer to move forward as in the security and compliance, when solving security and compliance challenges. So having that visibility itself is great value, because you'll be able to take action on that. And you take action by creating automated reviews, which will help you kind of certify these accesses, stay compliant, and keep up with audits that are happening periodically in your organizations. Once you have understood and governed your access, and you've mitigated any risk associated with your access, the next step is to set up policies that help you orchestrate this access across the entire user lifecycle, so that there is no break in terms of it reduces the amount of effort that you have to put into A, provision and deprovision. And obviously B, when it comes around for the next cycle of reviews, you already have policies in place that has mitigated most of the risk that came in when you first did your access reviews and understood who has access to what. And of course, reporting is another crucial part. Having reports and audit logs that talk about that has a kind of log of who's reviewed what and what access has changed is really important as well. So these four kind of key capabilities that we're trying to build in Zluri's IGA helps kind of stay secure, stay compliant, and also help you scale while being productive at the same time. So that's what Zluri's IGA platform is here to help you do. And let's dive into some of these use cases quickly. So the first thing is access intelligence. So I think like we said, so the way we understand who has access to what is by integrating with your critical systems, like your identity systems, your birthright applications, your business systems that really matter today. By integrating with them, we understand the list of users that have access to these systems, to these applications. We also understand to an extent what the activity is like on these applications. And again, we understand to an extent what roles these users have on these applications. So now that we have this information, you will be able to take action on this by understanding who's supposed to be having this access, where the misconfiguration lies, who are the most privileged users and whether they should continue being privileged users, who are service accounts. So this is the intelligence that you can get from having access to understanding who has access to what and what they're doing and what their role is on these applications. So that's how we build an access intelligence layer in Zluri for you to have as a great foundation to again continue your compliance process. And the next step here is, like you mentioned, access reviews. So once you have that information in a place, what you can do is you can create certifications around the applications that are most critical to you to review, and then run those certifications and schedule and assign those certifications to the right resource owners and the right reviewers, and make sure this happens in a connected, automated way. So everything is connected from the policies that you have today to the certifications you create on the apps and resources that are critical to the remediation post the review is done. So we create a connected workflow in Zluri for you to do everything in one place. So you don't have to worry about manual spreadsheets, JSONs, and exporting, importing, so that everything is done digitally in one place, and you create a connected workflow around access reviews, and you can schedule these reviews when you need them periodically for your compliances. Great. So once you've been able to review it, what's next? So like we mentioned, after you have visibility into who has access and you're able to review this access, the next step is building policies that helps orchestrate access based on how you've reviewed and the results of these reviews, you're able to create an orchestration layer where you can set up workflows that manage lifecycle access, that manage ad hoc access requests, and continuous remediation as well. So a lot of these features help support the policies that you want to create as part of your access management, so that in the future, the amount of effort you put in to actually reviewing this access goes down, because the risks are mitigated right when you create these automated workflows. So for example, if someone joins a company today, if you already have a policy and a rule in place that he only gets access to these birthright applications and only these team specific applications, then the review becomes a lot easier because you already know why he got access in the first place. So this is kind of the third aspect of our IGA solution. So it's access intelligence, understanding who has access to what, then reviewing that access so that you know that, for example, you create a certification for a Salesforce owner so that you know that only the right people have access, and then you orchestrate this access across your user lifecycle, so you mitigate risk before you even reach your next review cycle. And so what is the outcome of having an automated IGA solution today in a modern ecosystem? So the first thing is it's a lot faster. Again, it reduces the amount of manual effort that has to go into interacting with different application owners, stakeholders, and getting the right information, because everything is already there in one place. You have information to the users and who has access to those applications in Zluri, and then you're able to create reviews and schedule them and create connected remediation to that, and then also create workflows that automate access provisioning for the right people so that you mitigate risk going ahead. So one thing is obviously the productivity is a lot better. It's a lot lesser effort. And the most important thing is having that visibility into who has access to what. So these are kind of the outcomes that we gain today by having a modern IGA solution like Zluri to run your access governance process. A quick thing I wanted to cover, how we're trying to differentiate today in the market and how we're trying to make this a more modern solution, how we're trying to move to a more continuous governance solution today is, we're built in the cloud and born for the cloud. So we directly integrate with critical applications. So you have that access in Zluri, and we have deep integrations with a lot of applications today to enable that control for you. So we're built for the cloud and we're ready to kind of spit into your cloud ecosystems. The second feature, which I'm very excited about and will be coming up very soon, is our Copilot. Copilot is our AI intelligence layer, which is going to help mitigate a lot of the real-time risk that you have to deal with today. Like we mentioned, the rogue users or the kind of misconfigurations or external accounts. So a Copilot, it would be able to kind of tell you when these risks are happening, and you'll be able to mitigate them in real time. And the last thing is our connected automation layer, which is again, simple no-code workflows without any configuration or setup. So you can set up your provisioning in clicks so that the remediation and your access provisioning happens right after your governance policies are in place. So these are some of the ways we're trying to build for the future as well as build for the present, and to make sure that we're helping you guys move into a real-time access review, access governance process, and it becomes a lot easier going forward. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Mithilesh to take you through the demo of the product. Mithilesh, over to you.
Thank you, Rohit. And thank you all for taking the time out to join us on this webinar. Quick introduction about myself. My name is Mithilesh, and I'm part of the product team here at Zluri. And I am owning the access reviews or access certifications module within Zluri. So I would like to share my screen and walk you guys through what we have built so far, and also share a few pointers about what is coming up next. I'm hoping my screen is visible. So, right. So what we have in Zluri, what we're building in Zluri right now is a module called Access Certifications, which allows you to create certifications where you can review one or more applications, review the users that have access to those applications, the level of access they have to those applications, and take a call on whether their access needs to be approved, or if it needs to be declined, or if it needs to be revoked, or if it needs to be downgraded. So we're providing you a platform in which you can create custom reviews for specific applications at any given point in time, assign it to specific reviewers to evaluate whether the access itself or the level of access that specific users have to specific applications is appropriate, and then revoke their access or downgrade their access through automations that are already available in Zluri, something that's been covered in one of our previous webinars. So I'd like to walk you through how the review process, how to set up a certification within Zluri. So inside the access certifications module, the first step would be to create a new certification. So you could give this certification a name. So a sample application I'd like to take here is GitHub, since it has access, since it's your entire code repository, and you want to make sure that only the right people have the right level of access to an application like GitHub. So you can give it a specific name. Your entire certification can be given a name. You can assign a specific owner to for this certification. So the role of this owner would be to validate all the reviews that have been done, validate all the make sure that reviewers are completing their reviews within a specified time frame, make sure that all the revocation actions or tasks have been completed, mark a review as complete, mark a certification as completed, and whatever proof that needs to be submitted for any compliance related reasons are updated in the right place. So that would be the responsibility of the owner. And if anything, any additional context is required, you can add a description. It's completely optional. The next step would be to select the applications that select the entities, if I can put it that way, that need to be reviewed. So currently in our first release, we are supporting reviews, selecting one or more applications that need to be reviewed. But eventually in the near future, what we are going to support is being able to review users or groups or departments or cost centers, and all of the users and the applications that they have within for that specific entity that's been selected. So coming up in the near future, we're very excited because that solves a lot of use cases that our existing customers and prospects have asked for. But right now, just talking about applications, you can add one or more applications. So the first step would be to select an application itself. So in this example, we want to review GitHub, the people that have access to GitHub and the level of access that they have. So once the application is selected, you would be able to see how many users have access to GitHub and which departments those users belong to. So the first, we allow two reviewers. We are differentiating between a primary reviewer and a fallback reviewer here. So a primary reviewer could be someone belonging to a specific role within Zluri, or someone specific users themselves. So in case you want your department head to be the department head of the specific applications users to be responsible for reviewing those users' access, you can select the department head. Or you can do it with their reporting managers, your IT administrators, owners, any role that's currently configured within Zluri. Alternatively, if you just want the app owner, you can select the app owner. Now, the fallback reviewer would be configured here to make sure that in case, let's say we don't have reporting managers have been set up as the primary reviewer. And for some of the newer employees that have joined in, the source through which Zluri fetches reporting manager information hasn't been updated, or if there has been a change and the previous reporting manager who's left the organization is still present, then Zluri won't be able to assign an active employee of your organization as a reviewer. So to make sure that scenarios such as this are covered, where an application's user doesn't have a reviewer, we have a fallback reviewer. So it could be anybody in your organization who you identify as appropriate to take a review action on behalf of the primary reviewer here. So that's the reason why we've broken this out into two. After this, you can proceed. Just 1 second. Right. And Once you have selected the reviewers, you would be able to see the application's users, the users that have access to those applications, who the reviewer is, whether the user is active in your organization, which is information that we fetch from your SSO or HRMS systems, whether the user is active in the application itself, which is something that we fetch from the direct integration that one of the n number of direct integrations that we have with the respective applications. Similarly, you can see what licenses the users have, what roles they have within the application, all of which is information that we can get from the deep integrations that Rohit mentioned just a while back. Additionally, you can also see what the job title of the user is, whether the user is an employee of your organization or an external user or a vendor or a contractor as well. So you have all this information about the users that are accessing that application that you can view. And within Zluri, we can show a lot of, we have a lot of metadata for each application's user, not all of which would be information that you want reviewers, be it reporting managers or application owners or any member of your organization to have access to. So what we do, what you can configure is the information that is absolutely relevant for reviewing someone's access would be present. But outside of that, any other metadata, if you do not want app owners to know how much is being spent for each user for a month, you can disable the spend related information and the cost related information. If you do not want them to know about the threat level, for example, you can disable that. So we have a lot of information that can be shown or not shown to the reviewers. And you as someone who is responsible for creating a certification have complete control over what information can be made visible to reviewers. Moving on. So the last step in this process when you are adding an application to a certification would be to configure what revocation action needs to happen or what remediation action needs to happen when a user status is modified, when a user's access is supposed to be rejected or modified. So again, like I mentioned on one of our previous webinars, we covered how you can set up multiple playbooks to deprovision users and all of the different actions that can be, that Zluri supports, both automated and manual. So you can set up a playbook that is very specific for this use case, which would be to remove someone's access for GitHub, or alternatively to just downgrade someone's access on GitHub. So for the respective scenarios where someone's access is rejected or someone's access has to be modified, you can set up the playbooks appropriate for this use case and connect them here. So now you have an entire application that has been set up. You can continue adding as many applications as you need, but in the sample scenario that we're talking about, we're just worried about GitHub's access. So the last step would be to select a start and end date for your review. So the start date matters because on the date, once the start date crosses, we would notify all the reviewers and the person that's set up as the owner for that certification that, hey, do you remember the certification that's been set up? Now you have certain actions that you have to go complete, review actions that you have to go complete. And the end date matters for two reasons. One, you might have to do this review to comply with any compliance processes that you're currently following. And the second reason is internally, we make sure that we notify all the reviewers that haven't completed all their reviews, and the owner saying that, hey, there are so many pending reviews need to be completed. You might have to go nudge the respective reviewers to follow up with the respective reviewers to make sure that they complete their tasks. So you set up a start and end date and you're good to go. So right now there's only one action that you can take, which is to create a certification as is. But what we are building, and again, something that we're really excited about, is the ability to create reusable templates. You can create a certification template. You can use it to create one or more certification campaigns in the future with varying cadences tagged to specific use cases. Like one might be used for SOC 2 type 2 compliance processes that you have to do once every 6 months, for example. and one might be necessary for a SOX compliance that you only have to do once a year. So this is a feature that is coming up really soon, and that's something that we're really excited about as well. But for the time being, what we have in the immediate version is the ability to go ahead and create a certification as based on what has been set up so far. So as soon as you create a certification, depending on the start date, if the start date is today, the certification goes and what you have created goes and sits within an ongoing certification where review actions have to be taken up right away. If the start date is in the future, it goes and gets stored as an upcoming certification that you will be notified of as soon as the start date is crossed. And if you, for any ongoing certification, if you're done with all the steps and you have closed that certification, it comes and sits within the completed certifications list. So to walk you through the review actions that you have to complete, we'll look at an ongoing certification, the one that we just created. So here you can see which stage it is in. So we have split the, we have split each certification into 2 stages. One would be the stage where all the reviews need to be completed. And the second would be the stage where reviews are completed. Now the revocations and remediations have to happen. So right now we are in the review stage since the reviews are not completed. You can see who the owner is. The owner, like I mentioned earlier, would be the person that's responsible for validating the progress of the certification itself for each of the apps that have been set up, following up with the respective reviewers who have any pending reviews to make sure that they are completing their tasks. And once all of that is done, making sure that the review stage of the certification has been completed. So how can you review? So for each application, we set up a list of application users that need to be reviewed. So in this case, I have the same metadata that we were looking at when we were creating the certification. So I have 5 users here. I can go through the users one at a time and go through all of the metadata that is available for these users and decide whether I need to approve their access, whether their access needs to be modified, or whether their access needs to be rejected. So for example, in this case, this user, Mark Davis, he's an active employee. He is using the application. He is a licensed user. He's just a member and he's a software developer. Yes, they're an external user, but it doesn't matter. I need them for whatever reason it is. So I can review all this information and I can say that their status is approved. And you can add these comments as well that can be viewed by that will be stored for future purposes in case someone has to go back and verify why that user's access was approved or rejected or modified. Then you have the comment stating exactly why that action was taken for that user. Now, taking another example here, this user is the owner and the moderator of GitHub, and they're the head of engineering. No reason to reject their access. I can go ahead and approve it. And now there can be other scenarios as well. So for example, this user, Lisa, is not an active employee of Zluri, of my organization, but they still have access to the platform. They still have a license assigned. They still have a role assigned. So this is a user whose access needs to be revoked. So here I can mark their status as, I can mark it as their access needs to be rejected or revoked, and I can give the reason why. So this is also stored. And similarly, I can do the same for the other users as well. This user can be approved. And this user, for example, is an active employee, not an issue there, is using the application, not an issue there, is having the same license as everyone else, not an issue there, but has a moderator level access. It's not needed because this user is just a software developer. So just a member access would be sufficient. So in this scenario, I can say that their access needs to be modified and say that they need to downgrade to member role. So this way, whoever has to perform that action or whoever has to review why this person's access has to be modified, they all have this information available for context. So now I have completed the reviews for all 5 GitHub users. Great. And for when we set up when we added GitHub to the certification, we specified that when they're approved, there is no action that we have to take. We are okay with the current level of access that they have, so no action would run. Whereas for rejected and modified, we had specified certain, we had configured certain playbooks to run, each of which have specific actions that have to run within them. So for these two users, as soon as I am marking the state, so yeah, I'm the owner here. So I can see that all the reviews are completed. I can see that the only application here is completed. So now I can go and close this, conclude the review stage here. And as soon as the review stage is completed, what would happen is the action stage would get triggered. And the two users whose access has to be declined or whose access was declined or has to be modified, along with the comments for those users, will be present. And whatever playbook has to be set up, you can track the progress of the actions within that playbook over here. You'll be able to see whether it's pending or whether it's completed. And as soon as it's completed, the progress here gets updated, and you as the owner would be able to go and mark that certification as completed. So yeah, in this case, I'm overriding the pending status. But once this review has been completed, I would be able to see the record of that completed certification within the completed certifications tab, with all of the information about when the review was started, when it was concluded, when the reviews were completed, and when the certification itself was closed, along with the list of applications that were part of that certification. Another thing that we are doing, and this is necessity for any compliance processes that you have to complete, is when access reviews are done or access certifications are completed, you will need to submit proof that there were all these applications and users within these applications whose access was reviewed and either approved, rejected, or modified for reasons X, Y, and Z, and their access has been and the remediation has been done. Their access has been revoked or they have been modified, downgraded, apologies. And to do that, we send the owner a report on completion. So we specify what the certification was, who it was completed by, when it was completed, and we give additional details about the number of applications present, number of users present, how many users were approved, rejected, and so on. And more importantly, the list of all the users that were present, all of the user metadata that is relevant for submitting this proof, whether what happened during the review stage, is their access approved, declined, or modified, and whether the remediation has been done as well. So along with timestamps for both when the review was completed and when the remediation was done. So this covers the spectrum of what is needed for you to, it covers what is needed for you to start a certification, go through the review process, complete the certification, and upload the proof that's needed for any compliance purposes. So this is what Zluri currently has within within our access certifications module. And like I said, we have a lot more exciting features that are coming up. Rovi, I would like to stop sharing my screen and allow Rohit to reshare his screen so that we can walk through what is coming up next, and beyond that, answer any questions that anyone might have. So back to Rovi.
Thanks, Mithilesh. Thank you so much, Mithilesh, for that walkthrough. So yeah, let's go through some of the features that we're also coming up with to simplify access governance for the identity cloud. Yeah, I'll let Mithilesh walk through these features.
Thank you. So we have a whole host of features that are coming up, but there are 4 features that we are excited about. The first is reusable review templates. So when you're creating a review, when you're creating a certification or when you're creating a certification with a list of applications or any other entities, You don't just want to create a certification at that point in time and complete it and then let that let everything that you've created just sit there, right? So what we are going to give you the option is to create it as a template and allow you to reuse it at future points in time, depending on whatever use case you need that specific template for. So it might be that you want to do an annual audit of every application that has sensitive data, or you might have to do a quarterly audit of all of these applications for a specific compliance related reason. So beyond just creating a one-off certification or a certification campaign and then not being able to reuse the template later, we will give you the option to save something as a template and reuse it at any future points in time. The next feature that I'm excited about, which Rohit also touched upon earlier, is calling out certain anomalous access and giving you insights about users that are having access that they shouldn't be having. For example, since you last reviewed some a particular application, there are 14 new users that have access to that sensitive application, or there are X number of users that have an administrative level permission, or there are some users that have job titles or belong to departments that don't match with the category of that application or the application itself. So there are going to be certain insights that you will have to review at a more frequent basis, access that should not be present in the first place, or access that can potentially be present, but you'll have to go validate it at a specific point in time. So we want to call out those insights and anomalous access as well. And this is something that we're building towards, again, an exciting feature. The next feature is audit trails, and this is, when you have to do periodic reviews, when people's access changes over time, the licenses that you have might change, the level of access that you have might change, the resources and permissions that you have within that application might change. And this might change in between two reviews that have been done for that user and that application. So giving reviewers and security teams a visibility into when specific audits were done, when the user's entitlements or resources or permissions have changed, why they have changed, giving that complete timeline of the access and review history for each application user is something that would be beneficial and insightful for everybody involved in identity governance. And the last feature that I want to talk about is you can set up organization-specific policies, saying that specific to access review, saying that once a year I need to review every application that is being managed, centrally managed, or an application that has any spend involved, and an application that I'm classifying as critical. And within that policy, you would be able to set up specific rules saying that, I want to review every user that has an admin access within an application. Once a month. I want to review every user that has a license that costs a paid license once a quarter. I want to review every user that has low usage once a month. So you would be able to set up these policies and rules and have that apply to specific applications, and have organization-wide policies that need to be adhered to. So beyond this, these are the 4 most exciting features that we're working actively towards that I wanted to touch upon. But beyond that, like I said, there are a host of other features that are coming in that are part of our roadmap. And Rovi, I'll let you talk about it.
Thanks so much, Mithlesh. Thank you so much for that demo. We have a lot of great things coming up when it comes to our IGA solution. We really want to make it modern. We don't want it to fit into cloud ecosystems. But now I want to take some time out for a few question and answers that we received over the last 30 minutes or so. So the first question around this was, what are the reviewers reviewing? When you create an access certification, what exactly is the reviewer reviewing when that certification is live? So what does the reviewer get? What does the reviewer has to review when the certification is created by the owner is the first question.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm hoping a part of that question was answered over the course of the demo, but the reviewers are responsible for reviewing every user of an application gets assigned a reviewer. And this reviewer's responsibility is to look at that application user or all the application users that they're a reviewer for, look through all the information that they have about that user's access to that application. What is their job title, what is their employment status, what is their role within that application, what licenses do they have, so on and so forth, and confirm whether that level of access is appropriate for the user and for that application's user, and then decide if the user needs to continue having the same level of access, or if they should have a lower level of access, or if their access should be removed altogether. So that would be the responsibility of the reviewers. I'm hoping that answered the question, or is there any additional information that you're looking for?
No, I think. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that answers the question. The next question we have is, how many owners can a certification campaign contain? I think this is referring to when you create a certification, who can be the owner of the certification and how many owners can you have today?
It would be just one owner. So the point of contact, the owner's responsibility here, like I mentioned, would be to make sure that validate that everything has been, all the reviews have been completed, all the revocations have been done, any access downgrades that need to be would be one singular owner who can get the task done by multiple people, but they are the sole point of contact for making sure that this process is completed end to end.
Thanks so much, Mithilesh. Okay, I think we have one more question, so does this software also have a PAM module that connects to a PAM environment? Do you want to take that? I think I'll hand this over to Mithilesh as well.
Not at the moment. So at the moment, we are focused on access as a whole. Privileged access is something that would be coming up in the near future. But even when you talk about access as a whole, you can set it up in a way where you review users that have really in-depth access and access to privileged information, so that it can function as a semi-privileged access management system. But right now, it's not focused towards PAM. It's just any software access management. Any software access management is what we're working towards solving right now. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mithilesh. Since we're running closely short to time, and I know we don't want to run over too much, we will definitely answer more questions. We'll take all your questions and make sure we have a response for you beyond after this webinar or post this webinar. But for now, I just want to quickly move on, cover a couple more things before we close out today, so we're not running out of time. Like Mithilesh said, we're building a lot of features that moves us more towards real-time, continuous, automated governance, including capabilities like anomaly detection, like he mentioned, as well as a security co-pilot, which is going to be like our AI-based layer as well, which will be coming up soon as well. Audit trails, which are really important to understand who had what access changed from time A to time B. As well as, like I said, now we can govern access at an app level. So we're also going to have other levels of access reviewing in the future. What our aim is to make identity governance real time, because that's where the world is heading as well, so that this doesn't have to be done only when we have compliances and then and limited amount of time, but you can also move to a more secure ecosystem that's real time, as well as you can mitigate threats and move to a more identity security space today in the cloud ecosystem. So that's our objective, and we're trying to build capabilities that support this in the near future. So make sure to kind of stay tuned to our weekly webinar sessions as well, because we're going to be talking about a lot of the features that are coming up in the next few weeks during our weekly webinars, as well as our launch of Zluri and the security copilot, which will be soon as well. So don't miss out, and make sure to join our community to keep up to date with these updates as and when they happen. One last thing as well is we have launched an ebook to kind of talk to that contains information about what modern IGA is and what the capabilities are that are required to do modern IGA for security and compliance in today's cloud. Yeah, make sure you can scan this QR code. So I'm going to keep this on screen for a few seconds, and you can download this for free. So make sure to get a copy, grab a copy today. But thank you so much. That ends our webinar today. We'll make sure we get responses for all the questions that we couldn't answer due to a lack of time, and we'll send over the responses after the webinar is done. Thank you so much once again, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.